All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, panel. So I'm Brenna. I work at Host Hotels, lead strategic insight. We, as part of my job, we kind of do some of the vanilla AI with respect to predictive analytics in terms of helping to inform our investment strategies. But when it comes to operations, oftentimes as owners, we're really sort of peeking around the corner in terms of what's happening. We don't have the full view of the whole ocean. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation today with all of you. We don't have a ton of time, so I thought we'd dive right in and just ask you all to introduce yourselves, as well as kind of tell us the top one or two things that you're doing with AI in your org today. So we want to go down the line.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My name is Omri Shalev, and I'm the co-founder and CTO of Reeco. For those who don't know, Reeco is a procure-to-pay platform. We do purchasing, receiving, inventory management, recipe solution, and AP automation, including payments. Some of the things that we do as part of AI, obviously for every module, there is something different, but for purchasing, we can do forecasting on your spends, and based on that, give you what you need to buy. And when I say buy, I talk about food and beverage, cleaning supplies, all the things that are being done pretty inefficiently, things to do with insights, and some other relevant things that AI can really improve for every single module.
And I think we're the first panel that just happened to sit down in the exact right order.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Very good.
I love it.
I feel like we just won. We should drop the mic and walk off.
Operations, it's all about efficiency.
I'm Michael Lederman. I'm the head of technology for leading hotels of the world. We're a slightly different animal. We're a soft brand, or we actually like to call ourselves a collection. So we're a collection of about 420 fiercely and passionately independent luxury properties. So our mission is to provide those kind of brand level services that they might get from a Wyndham or someone else, but in such a way that they can maintain their independence, which often means that when you're starting to talk about things like data and technology, they are fiercely independent about how they manage their data and their technology on property, which impacts all of these kind of initiatives. At LHW, we're working on a lot of different ways of improving internal efficiency using AI, a lot of the same things we've been talking about throughout the entire day, content generation, knowledge management. But two of the bigger initiatives that are having impacts for our hotels, we've launched a pilot for a chatbot to reduce the load of day-to-day questions going to our front desks so that they can spend their time really focusing on higher servicing activities rather than information that's already on the website. And similarly for our own internal teams that provide distribution and integration support to our hotels, giving them an AI-based solution to get quicker answers from the common questions that are coming in on a day-to-day basis from our hotels.
That's great, Michael. At Wyndham, so we have, my role at Wyndham is I lead our global contact center, and the other role is property technology, which I'm going to speak more about on this session. One of the things when we think about what are we doing with AI, the first thing that we had to solve was a unified profile. We listened to our owners, and it was 2020, and our hotel still stayed open, right? April 2020, they were still open. 90% were open because we just need one person to run the front desk, maybe one housekeeper, and we appealed to the everyday travelers, the truck drivers, construction workers. And so one of the feedback that we got from our owners is we need to do more, step up our game in 2020 in how we're thinking about technology at the property to provide more benefits to them. How can we help them with their bottom line, and how can we leverage technology that is available to the brand? And so we have at the contact center a unified profile. We have a lot of different AIs that plug into it, because once you have that, your AIs perform way better. And so we started to do this at the property. So we have a voice AI, right, to take care of the easy cancels, sending back folios. And then we have a messaging AI. We call it Wyndham Connect, which is powered by an AI that helps you check in, check out, upsell, provide personal upsell offers, and answer the 80% of the easy how-to questions.
That's great.
All right. My name is Nadine. I'm the CEO and co-founder of LILO. And what we do is we augment the operations team. So anything that a hotelier did not become a hotelier to do, like GL coding, dealing with invoices, payment, we take that grunt work off of them, not only by automating the tasks, but also by helping them make smarter decisions. And we obviously need to use AI across the board. It's just a tool and means to an end. And one example of that is GL coding and budgeting. And suppliers are constantly changing the SKU numbers and the descriptions. You can't really have a rule-based way to do the GL coding automatically. So this is one excellent use case of AI that saves time of the GM on a task that doesn't add value and they don't really want to do.
That's great. Thank you. So as you can see, we have a good mix here of kind of solutions providers, as well as brands and big and small brands. So I think it's exciting to see people who really have a direct view into what's going on the operations side. Janesh, you kind of talked about laying the groundwork and your owners, right? And kind of, I think all of these kind of initiatives take investment, both time and money. And how do you think about ROI with these kind of big initiatives? How do you measure it and sell it to both your C-suite, your owners, your hotels?
Right. From prior to the property, the big investments, Mike Mahar, who spoke earlier, we made our investments with Data Cloud and connecting it to our loyalty and res systems to provide that unified profile. The incremental investments we're making for our property is actually a lot less than you think, right? Because Wyndham, the brand itself, made the big investment. And so when we think about Wyndham Connect, the messaging AI, what we're hearing from our select service owners is that they're making, we have well over 4,000 properties. It's one of the fastest deployments of a hospitality AI in what we believe is in our industry, right? Because this is powered by an LLM model. We use a partner named Canary, but that's the system we're using. And some of the easy ROIs for our owners is that the engagement, because if you come to a select service at 10 in the morning, they're likely going to give you the room if it's available. But if you're engaging 24 hours before that, hey, do you want to check in early? And there might be a $20 fee for that. People are engaging on that platform and collecting upsell revenue. So it's real. So we're looking at ROIs in terms of upsell revenue. But then ever since we've launched these programs, we're also seeing our quality scores across all of our brands improve year over year, month over month, on a rolling basis since we launched it. So, and the reason is because you're servicing the guest on the channels they prefer. It's not always the front desk, right? We have a large percentage of the folks that are coming in through the messaging platform. And then this freezes up the front desk to provide hospitality to the guest that's in front of them. So we're seeing service quality scores go up.
Michael, what about you? I mean, it's a little bit of a different perspective. Are you seeing the return immediately, or?
It's a little bit slower for us. We have a bit of a chicken and egg situation for a company of our size. So we're not able to make the big investments in advance the way that some of the larger brands can. So we have to really partner with our hotels and with external partners in order to start proving the ROI before we can then get the larger buy-in. We also, as I said earlier, we have that kind of that challenge where we have independent hotels. They all have different technology stacks, different levels of maturity. So the cost side of integrating data is much more complex and much higher. So we had to focus on areas where the data is readily available that we can see from across all of the hotels. And areas that we can get very quick pilots spun up. So we focused on efficiency purely. Obviously, the dream is really generating lots of revenue, but our hotels biggest constraint right now is staffing. So they told us if we can have fewer calls going into the front desk, that would be successful. And the majority of the questions hitting the front desk were things that should be available on the website or in standard operating procedures and things like that, things that are actually fairly standard. So we chose a solution and designed a solution where we scrape everything from publicly available data, from their website, from Word documents, things that are really easy to put together. And it has been even more successful than we expected, because with the hotels that are piloting it, they've seen 90% of the questions answer right away. The calls going into the front desk have dropped dramatically. The interesting flip side of the calls that are coming in are taking much longer, because what's making it now to the front desk are the more complex questions and the things that are also more likely to convert into an actual booking. So although we weren't expecting an ROI from a financial perspective, we're starting to see it now because we've reduced some of that friction at the front end. So we're seeing time saving as well as starting to see a incremental increase in bookings for those hotels.
And I would imagine also just the ability to put your guest service agents more in front of the customer as opposed to dealing with kind of standard queries all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, in the luxury segment, what our hoteliers are passionate about is really providing that one-on-one, truly personalized experience. They actually don't want technology to get in the way, but they're very happy to have technology get the easy stuff out of the way so that they can spend time with their guests.
Makes sense. Omri, what about you? How do you sell your solution to the clients?
So I think when it comes to operational efficiency and measuring and ROI and things that you discussed here before, it's a complicated task, because how do you measure how much time you save for a chef? Or if you can think about it, you're basically talking about soft dollar saving and hard dollar saving. So you might have the soft dollar ones, which are the time saved for the chef, for the housekeeping manager, for the engineers, for the GM, doing tasks like geocoding and inputting stuff into accounting software. While you have the hard dollar saving with us, for example, with purchasing, I can easily tell you if your chef is buying the right products or not from the right supplier. So I think it's a combination of both of them. You need to, first of all, make sure they understand that you cannot do AI and cool stuff on piece of paper. You need to, what we call lift and shift, make sure that you bring everything into a more digital space. This is a process, depends on the process, the property, and how traditional they operate. But basically, once you lift and shift from pen and paper to digital format, then you can start save time for the chef with purchasing, so it takes him less time to do that. You can save some time for the person who does the receiving instead of going with a piece of paper and just marking down what's missing and what's not. And the way for you to translate that into hard dollar savings is basically if you see that you bought the chef more time, and if the chef can do things more frequently. So instead of them, let's say, doing menu engineering every 90 days, in the good case, they start to do menu engineering every 30 days. Instead of them, for example, not doing any tasting or GM spending time on geocoding, instead of that, they're going to be on the floor talking with guests. So there is a combination of soft dollar saving, which you're probably going to see at the beginning, which immediately translate into hard dollar saving. And those are the kind of things that we try to explain to the properties before they even go in this journey.
Something resonated with me from an earlier panel on that topic. Someone said that no one's actually experiencing an ROI on efficiency because they're not releasing the budget. They're not laying people off. They're not saving money anywhere. But people are doing higher value work, which also makes them happier. So you also have kind of an employee satisfaction aspect of this as well.
Yeah, but I think you can still see some of the hard dollar savings. I think hoteliers are some of the most, cash savvy business people. Like, there was what's the ROI, even if they don't call it ROI. Why should I spend time and money on this? And there are some ways where you can see direct savings. For instance, like 1.5% of the outflow of businesses in general is duplicate payments. Like you pay for the same thing twice. And for hotels, where there are a lot of paperwork, things flying, invoices in drawers, it's even higher. So if you actually automate that and have like AI compare the PO, what you paid, and the invoice, you're able to catch this early. And then you're either not paying twice for the thing, or you don't have to go through the hassle of asking the vendor, hey, I paid you twice, can you return it for me? Like that's one example where there's clear savings.
Hard dollars, yeah.
I think it's a great point. Just to that, what happens once you optimize? So month over month, okay, first month it was clearly inefficient, and then you optimize, and then they're already used to the optimized scenario when they're not paying duplicate invoices or they're now ordering from the exact supplier they need to. So how do you show month over month or quarter over quarter that you're still showing that ROI? And that's, to Michael's point, it's very difficult to measure efficiency time over time. But again, it's very important to make sure that your employees are happy and everything is streamlined. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cornell's research, but for every employee that leaves you, especially in those areas of the back of the house where you have high turnover, you lose roughly $6,000 just because you need to do more training, onboarding. So I think to add to your point, 100%, there are ways to, in the short term, measure those hard dollar savings. But eventually, I think there is higher level thinking coming from the management and the property, looking at an operational efficiency as a goal and not just like short-term ROI to return their money on software or something like this.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked earlier about how younger employees are really, they have an expectation in terms of what technology can do, and they're not going to be happy in an environment where they're pushing paper all the time. So I think that's a great point. And following on that thread, I think I want to kind of talk about the realities of implementation, when you really get in there and start putting the solutions to work. Kind of what are some of the lessons that you've learned so far? Maybe Michael, start with you in kind of the smaller independent perspective. What are you seeing? What are some of the challenges there?
So this was mentioned earlier, I think by Shane. Tech debt, both from the technology platforms and the data itself, is the biggest obstacle that we've had to deal with, both internal at LHW as a brand and within our hotels. We've had to invest in, actually on the first phases of having to re-architect things like the way our Salesforce environment works, because what's worked for us for the past 10 years and done a very good job of driving our business does not work well with AI. So in order to unlock that next level of value, we have to kind of go back to the beginning and redesign a lot of our Salesforce environment. With 400 independent hotels, every one of them, with the exception of distribution, because that's the one thing we do provide for them, they have different property management systems, they have different CRMs, they have different messaging systems, and we have to work with our partners to find solutions, a variety of solutions that they can use that can work with whatever stack they have. And the solutions that we're building that layer on top of them have to kind of be data agnostic. Again, leveraging things that they can pull right from their websites or that they can load in manually so that they can get, unlock that value quickly without this small hotel that maybe it has one IT person, maybe it has no IT people, having to do a complete overhaul of all of their own property technology.
Yeah, Janesh, jump in.
Yeah, I would add, like, you have to almost prove it out before you roll it out. And Nadine's right, our owners are really slick when it comes to making money. When we launched Wyndham Connect, I had no idea that charges would be like the top 6 things people buy as an upsell, because they forget their charges when they come to the hotel. So it's not always like what we think as hoteliers, late, early check-in, pet fee. It's chargers are what they figured out and told each other. But our owners, the way we did it to prove it out, we're also on Salesforce, but Wyndham Connect is on a platform where they connect to, and it gives suggested, you have the LLM responses. And in the early days of our launch, we didn't just launch it to 4,000 properties. Eventually, by the end of the year, it'll be at all 6,000. But we launched it to like 100 of what we considered our most active owners and staff that we can get feedback from. And the LLM model was wrong like 90% of the time, right? People were asking, can you wake me up? Is there anything I can do for you? Wake me up at 5 a.m. And it would respond, sure thing, and is there anything else you need? And they didn't get no wake-up call, right? And it led to a service issue. But when that question comes in the console, our owners and their staff were trained, listen, if it's a good answer, thumbs up. And if it's not right, thumbs down, edit, and give the suggested response. And the other thing we did also with Wyndham Connect, we put our confidence level really low in the beginning so that the LLM had days and weeks to get better. But as we went back to this group, week after week, month after month, the LLM was getting smarter, right? Pretty soon it was getting 80% of it pretty accurately before we let it go. So I think you have to, and then we rolled it out to the masses, right? But in our case, it's really, you got to prove it out by small groups, small pilots, test it out, and then if it's acceptable and you're not going to have a problem on your hands, then you roll it out.
And actually, kind of a funny story. One of the things that we experienced with the chatbot pilot is we had to figure out what our threshold for hallucinations was and our threshold for accuracy. And the amusing part was on one of our first test hotels, we asked the chatbot about some of the spa treatments, and it gave us an amazing answer, a great series of spa treatments. And they weren't what the hotel actually had. They were better. Like the hotel ended up loving the new descriptions and redid their menu. So it was a happy accident, but it was itself actually a hallucination. It didn't like the way it was described and came up with a better description. But we had to build into the process that the hotels would actually monitor the chat sessions over time and keep updating the source content and provide updates back to the developers to make sure that it was not just the right level of accuracy, but was the tone and the branding right. And every hotel had kind of a different level of where they wanted it cut off and handed to the hotel for human interaction.
And you both, I think, are dabbling a little bit with the AI voice response, right? Can you talk about some of the differences there and how much that can handle, how well that's handling it versus the chat?
I mean, I can start because I have the shortest answer. We have one hotel running a pilot with Poly AI that literally went live, I think, a couple weeks ago. And their primary objective was actually, they're very well known in the Vienna market for their restaurant and some of their bakery goods. They have a world famous cake that gets ordered all over the place. And they simply wanted a mechanism to handle some of those simple, like restaurant reservations and orders for the cake. But it needed to handle many different languages because of their market. They went live only about 2 weeks ago, but it took them a better part of 6 to 9 months to get all of the data integrations and thoroughly vet all of the handling of the various languages and the accents and things like that. And so far, it's been very successful. But the jury's still out on some of the handling of spoken English, but with accents is the one thing that it still seems to be struggling with a little bit.
No, I'm good. Anything else to add?
I think it's best heard from hotel operators.
Well, so we have the unified profile. We give it to our properties. We run it at the call center. We're piloting at 20 properties. Essentially, it knows who you are, right? Like when the call comes in, if it identifies you, an AI saying, listen, they're calling this hotel. Let's see if they have an existing or past reservation. So they'll say, Brenna, are you calling about your reservation tomorrow? Yes, I am. How can I help you? Doesn't matter how you say it, but as soon as you say cancel, it actions the cancel because it's plugged through the data cloud to our CR. And if you're calling about are you calling about your reservation your stay last month? And you say yes, And if you ask for a receipt, they'll send the receipt. So it's specific use cases on top of your normal how-tos. I think what's fascinating is the possibility of what more can we do. But today the call center at Wyndham is handling thousands of these cancels and requests on a daily basis. We handle tens of millions of calls because we get it from the property. So.
Are calls typically directed to property level, or so you would implement this on a property level?
Yeah. Because the way we're thinking about the property is just, what more can we do to handle a lot of the labor, so that the staff that's there can take care of the guest in front of them. So.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Great. So that brings me to kind of what's next. I want to ask each of you. Nadine, we'll start with you on the end since you're on the end there. Kind of when you think about the future, what are you excited about?
Given what we do, I'm excited of taking all the manual, boring, repetitive work off the hands of the operations team. Like every time I talk to an operator or a general manager, it's like their brain has 50 tabs open. If I can close 20 or 30 of those, then I'll be happy through LILO.
Amen.
If I had her app, I would like to order groceries and all that other stuff for home. But it's pretty cool what you guys are doing there. For Wyndham, this is really big. We have 25 brands. Most of them are select service. We're leveraging technology to drive a hyper-personalized experience, whether you call the property, call the contact center, or engage in our digital channels. This used to be a feature that was only available to upper luxury brands, frankly. And so the fact that we can do this equals the playing field. And, we believe travel is possible for all. And in that sense, all means everyone gets that great experience. So it's cool.
What I'm most excited about in the future is particularly in the luxury space and kind of the traditional luxury hospitality, like across Europe, which is a lot of our portfolio, a lot of hotels that have been in the same family for decades and even in some cases much of a century. Technology has always been seen as something that gets in the way of the hospitality. And we're now starting to see that shift. And I think AI is becoming that inflection point where they're seeing that a piece of technology can create an experience that is maybe not completely on par with the human interaction in our hotels, but it's a complementary experience, and it smooths it out. And they no longer are seeing technology as something that they want to just have in the back end, just behind the scenes, but customers don't see it. They're now starting to embrace it in a way that they really haven't before. So part of it's about the technology is reaching that point, but it's also shifting the perception of the guests and the hoteliers.
Yeah, so for me, data is the new oil, as we all know. Basically, what excites me is how we connect all the data points into one single place. So this is something that we're doing right now, connecting your POS system. It can be either Toast or Micro Symphony, your recipes, your menus, your inventory, your purchasing, your AP, everything in one single place. And based on that, you'll be able to do lots of forecasting on your purchasing. But more interesting, which is something that the industry is really moving towards, is AI agents. And I'm sure you've heard about that one a lot in previous sessions. Well, AI agents or RAG is basically the idea of having your own ChatGPT for your business, costumed to your needs. So, and I really like to do this exercise with hoteliers, and I ask them, if you want to reduce your food cost by 5% right now, how much time do you think this project will take you? And the answer can be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And they have all the questions they need to answer in their heads, but they don't have the answers. They need to talk with the chef. They need to talk with the housekeeping. They need to talk with controllers. They need to talk with the GM. If it's a managing company with 50 or 100 properties, they need to talk with every single one of them. And if they have different name for the recipes, it becomes a mission impossible. It takes 1 year, and until they come with the insights, it's already not relevant because the price fluctuate and change. So my goal is to see in the next coming months the ability for controllers in Chef to basically type a question and immediately get an answer so they can react much quicker to the fluctuation that is happening in the market.
Very cool. Great. Well, I think I left. Oh, no, they put me at 0 now. Do we have?
Oh, we got some time. We
good?
built in
Okay.
a little time for you guys.
Okay.
We can do a few minutes of Q&A.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions?
There you go.
there?
Hold on, Maya. Let me bring the mic back for you.
Thanks, Dave. Just a question. Imagine if your parents were here and you wanted to help. I'm sorry to just ask a kind of a basic question, but you wanted to help them understand AI. What are your individual hacks for what you would tell them that you recommend they do? So the panel that just left, I was asking the same question to one of the members, and they said use Perplexity. I'm basically trying to explain to my parents what I'm doing at this conference, for example. And Dave and I went to high school, so he knows my parents.
So can I take this one? Yeah, and then I'll change. So we've been looking at the corporate level, and one thing that one of our trainers kind of said, which I thought was really helpful, was if you had 25 interns that kind of like knew a little bit of your business, but not a lot, and you could have them do something, what would you have them do? So that's what generative AI can help with.
Yeah, so my background is engineering. I used to work for Microsoft for years, and I think that I can go very deep in vectors and how do you measure distances and how ChatGPT works behind the scene, which is very interesting. But I think at the end of the day, if you think about it as a big black box where you feed data, and eventually there are many algorithms and equations and math going on inside that box that eventually needs to give you one output. And what everyone is trying to do right now is to make this box as efficient in terms of speed, but also in terms of what it can bring back to you. So you can see that with every version of ChatGPT, for example, it started with text only, and then it moves to other raw data formats like pictures and sound and vision, and all that will eventually, the idea is that the AI will be like the brain of the body. You'll have sensor like your eyes, your mouth, your ears, everything, your other senses. And this is going to be the brain that connects all those senses together and kind of bring or spits the right answer every single time.
We got one more question here. Oh, sorry.
No, I was looking at you.
One more question here.
Okay. I think more people than care to now know our new friends, who are actually very old friends at FinCEN, a couple of blocks away, with this new reporting requirement. They're an example of people who've been using AI for years to detect fraud. I guess for the purchasing folks, are there any use cases where AI is, kind of sussing out fraudulent behavior when it comes to people being in cahoots with double invoicing and that kind of thing, and making some side cash that way?
I think that's a very clear use case, and I would even argue you don't need like AI for it. Like simple machine learning pattern recognition can already detect a lot of that fraud, especially in hotels where a lot of the purchasing is more or less repetitive. Definitely.
I will add to that and say that one of the clear cases over there is three-way match, which everyone is trying to achieve but not really doing, because it involves purchasing, receiving, and also the actual invoice. Now, what happens if the chef, for example, not the chef, the supplier, calls it beautiful apple, but in the invoice it says apple because in his ERP he doesn't want to say beautiful apple, just an apple. So you need to make sure that you're matching between the actual purchasing or the digital name, the invoice itself, and the receiving that the receiver is doing actually match, so you're not going to pay. Microsoft, by the way, had a huge security breach where people just send them invoices and they pay those invoices because they didn't have three-way match. So AI can really help with that because it can recognize, again, based on distances between names and some other, what we call vectorization, can really figure out the difference between the beautiful apple and the apple in the invoice and the one that you have in the receiving. And this is also something that we do at Reeco.
So where do I send my invoices for Microsoft?
We'll follow up after this.
That was a good question. Did you ask it so you don't get caught? Is that why you asked that question? All right. That's it. Thank you very much to the panel. I
everyone.
appreciate it.